A recent drone activity over U.S. military airspace is fueling questions on what's being done to monitor such aircraft. U.S. Air Force officials confirming several unmanned drones flew over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia back in December. It's been brought up at congressional hearings twice just this month alone.
Now, the FBI is investigating reports of drones flying near sensitive locations in Morris and Somerset counties. The FAA has issued temporary flight restrictions banning their flights over the Picatinny Arsenal military base and Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster as law enforcement officials work to determine if there's any reason for concern.
You can't have random things flying around secure military sites, and that is exactly what the UK and US military based here have been dealing with publicly, at least for the last 5 or 6 nights. Last night there were more reports of objects in the sky above RAF airbases from Oxfordshire to Norfolk and Suffolk. We're told it's not just kids playing around because, and I'm quoting, their flights were coordinated over a series of days.
The Pentagon confirms that unidentified drones did fly over Langley Air Force Base in Hampton.
Yeah, the Defense Department spokeswoman said today the drones didn't appear to have hostile intent. Mike Gooding has the latest.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
But the weird thing for me is that there's no flashing lights on it at all. Who knows?
Hello pals, welcome back to the channel. So, there is some, I mean, we talk about UAP anyway, but there is some extra weird stuff going on, and has been for quite some time. And I don't know whether any of you still watch mainstream media, but on the off chance that you do, over the last 12 months or so, there's a very good chance you've seen a story a bit like this.
Mysterious drones spotted in the New Jersey night sky, prompting an FBI investigation and temporary flight restrictions from the FAA. Multiple reports of this unusual aircraft activity around the Trump National Golf Course Club, Bedminster, as well as a U.S. Army ammunition hub in Dover.
Now, on a scale of 1 to interesting, I'd give that a solid 1.5. Blink and you'll miss it. Most people probably didn't look up from their lunch whilst they were watching that news update. But that is a report of drones over an ammunition storage area for the United States military. And they're not alone. It turns out that American installations in particular have been absolutely plagued by what's been reported as drones for over 12 months now. In fact, at the last UAP congressional hearing, we heard about drone incursions above Langley Air Force Base, which lasted for 14 days. So it provokes a great deal of questions if you look past the terminology that they're using. Why are we reporting this as drones? Well, in this video, we're going to have a little look at that, and we're going to have a look at some of the things that have been reported, see if you think they're coincidences or there's any real similarities, and some possible explanations. So let's get into it.
Complaints and curious questions about these drones go back weeks across Morris County. This video was taken by Mike Walsh at a middle school in Chester, New Jersey.
I can see 3 drones just in this view. There is another one over here and another one.
We've been getting complaints and talking with some of my fellow mayors from the adjacent towns. They've been getting complaints as well. Out here in western Morris County, we don't have any real airports per se. We do have a lot of people who fly drones recreationally, but these don't appear to be that.
So, before we get much further, I want you to consider, above everything else, the choice of words used by the media there. Why are we referring to anomalous aerial phenomena as drones? The only way you could do that is if you could hear it, see somebody controlling it, shoot one down and recover it, and that has not happened. When you hear the word drone, you immediately think of a quadcopter that you can buy on something off the internet, with a couple of lights on it, maybe a camera if you buy a half decent one, and a remote control. these do not seem to exhibit any of the characteristics of these things at all. Now, I'm not saying that all of these encounters and sightings are of the same thing. That would be a mistake in itself. That's just like when everybody sees a triangle in the sky and they go, it's a TR3B, without knowing what on earth they're talking about. But people are seeing anomalous craft lingering over particularly military installations, and we're throwing the term drone on it. I would suggest to you that when you hear the term drone, you imagine it's nothing more than kids playing, or somebody that's got an expensive birthday present that's taking it out and lingering somewhere that they shouldn't. So how do you explain that that thing has been over Langley Air Force Base, with the United States of America is the most powerful military force that has ever existed on the face of the planet, and they are not cool with you flying your toys over their military installations? Also, these things are reported as silent. These things have been reported as up to the size of an SUV. Now, I would love to find one of those on eBay, but I certainly haven't seen one yet. We've had a perfectly good term for stuff like this for over 20 years now, UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, which is exactly what these things are. But imagine you're watching the news and somebody says, drones have been sighted over an airport for 14 days. You're going to go, those pesky kids. Whereas if they say UFOs, UAP have been sighted above an airport for 14 days and we can't do anything about it, people are going to take a lot more notice, and it's going to cause a lot more unpredictable reaction from the general public. So let's look again at what happened in Langley, because that was the most popular of these incursions so far and was discussed in the recent UAP congressional hearing.
Crosses the finish line. I'm deeply alarmed by the reporting of the massive drone swarm that flew over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia last December. Langley is the home of the 1st Fighter Wing, which maintains half of the F-22s in the US Air Force inventory. Reports of this incident indicate these drones were roughly 20 feet long, flying more than 100 miles an hour at an altitude of over 3,000 feet. Yet the origin of these drones and their operators remains a mystery. This incident and other sightings near sensitive military installations highlights the complexity of the UAP challenge facing our intelligence, defense, and homeland security committees. Whether these phenomena are the result of foreign adversaries developing advanced technologies or something else entirely, we must take them seriously, investigate them thoroughly, and assess their implications on national defense. The repeated UAP sightings around sensitive military sites underscores the need for innovative defensive strategies beyond traditional measures.
So, 20 feet long, altitude of 3,000 feet, and doing 100 miles an hour. Now, as we've discussed in the Triangle UFO documentary that I made, it's really easy to make something that goes really, really fast. It's really, really easy to make something with a very long linger time. It's very difficult to do both. And it's even more difficult to do that in a silent drone. Also, I've got a picture of one, so have a look at this and tell me if this looks like a commercially available drone. So, let's explore the options. If this is a foreign power or a different corporation or human-based, and it's there to do reconnaissance, why would you send something covered in lights, which is 20 feet long and hanging around at 3,000 feet over absolute radar and sensor dense hotspots? It just doesn't make sense. If you were going to spy on an airway and you didn't have satellites orbiting the Earth, or were able to hack into like Starlink or something like that, you'd use something like, I don't know, a drone that looks like a crow and just get it to sit on a fence post and quietly watch everything going by for ages. There's drones available the size of a pen. There's drones that look like dragonflies. So a 20-foot long thing covered in lights parading around, the only well, no. There's a potential that it's related to its power source. Bob Lazar has discussed gravitational lensing, and so has Jacques Vallée. So if this is an anti-gravitational craft, then it is a potential that if it's creating a dense enough gravitational field, it's forcing all of the ambient light around it and concentrating it into different areas. How our eyes would detect that is as these different colours. I would love to see if somebody's managed to get an IR camera down there, but at the moment that doesn't seem to be the case. So why would you have something with lights above a military base? And this shouldn't be the first time we've heard about that, because this kind of thing has been going on over military and nuclear facilities for a very, very, very long time. I made the documentary Nukes and UFOs based specifically on the interest of UAP over nuclear facilities. The most famous by far being the Bob Salas account over the Malmstrom Air Force Base in the 60s. So let's wind the clock forwards to the present day and discuss what's going on right now, because this is a breaking and developing story. Now, you may well be aware that the US Air Force leases from the ever-dwindling RAF some of its air bases to use as a staging post and storage facility, and amongst which is lots of its nuclear arsenal. In fact, on November the 15th, the UK government and the US government signed a new agreement which allows for more prolific sharing of nuclear weapons, basically, in UK territories. And almost immediately after this took place, RAF Lakenheath started getting bothered by these drones. For 6 nights in a row, anomalous craft, lights, and other bizarre things were seen over the base. I did a live stream following the first night of this, and people that were there plane spotting, because in the UK almost every airbase will have a viewing facility where you can turn up. There's picnic benches, and they're very friendly to the air watching community. The comms is usually unsecured so that you can be there and listen. There's a really famous aviation place called the Mac Loop, where people go up and sit on top of mountains and the pilots fly past and give them a thumbs up and stuff like that. It's incredible. Anyway, I digress. People live streaming from Lakenheath noticed all of this anomalous going on, but a point of difference is they noticed that the F-15s stationed at Lakenheath were scrambling and taking off under full afterburner. The KC-135 Stratotanker was also scrambled and was doing, as we now know, the racetrack pattern above Lakenheath, which would allow the F-15s, if on patrol, to refuel in the air rather than having to come down. This carried on for 6 nights on and off, with different anomalous activity starting at dusk every day. As I mentioned, journalists, and it got hold of Reddit and caught fire there, and more people were heading down. The best person that managed to record any of this, though, was a YouTube channel called Liberty Wing UK, I think it was. And he did a fantastic 3-hour-long live stream with loads of lights in the sky. And 2 days later, his channel was deleted. Gone. He's now come back on the scene, and he did an interview on a podcast the other day. I forget which one, I'm sorry. But he spoke very openly about how the Ministry of Defence had approached him and spoke to him, and he was known to them. Somebody on Reddit that was doing a live stream the next day after Liberty Wing's big live stream said the Ministry of Defence guys approached him and said, do you know who this guy is that was doing a live stream, because we really want to talk to him. And the day after, his channel was deleted. No idea why. In the interview that he did not go into any detail as to why his channel was deleted. And as a relatively fledgling YouTuber, I am aware that the only way that I know that you can get your channel deleted is through copyright strikes. Eyes on Cinema, the absolute legend of an archive of UAP and UFO accounts, had 3 copyright strikes at once and was given 7 days notice, or his channel was going to be taken down. It's a bit of a shark tank out there, but it is an extremely efficient way to get somebody's channel taken down. Now, Liberty Wing didn't say that it was anything to do with that. He just said, I lost my channel. So I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but something weird happened, and that footage is now not on the internet. Thankfully, due to Reddit and some other keen ufologists, the footage was saved, and I'm not going to bother putting it up because basically it's a few lights in the sky and things acting anomalously. What was far more interesting was his description of the events, and how he said that on one occasion these drones were like right overhead and they were completely silent.
Now I think the lights do give it the appearance like it's a triangle. But, okay, so now it looks like a more like a green light, the bottom one. But it could be that the red and the green one might be the main wing, and the white one might be the tail of like a standard plane configuration, potentially. But there's not really any way of telling because it's so dark. But the weird thing for me is that there's no flashing lights in it at all. Who knows? Now the red and the green lights could potentially be the end of the wings, and then the white one on the tail. But it's weird that it's like that because it gives it a triangle a look to it. But nothing's flashing on it at all. Yeah. Too dark, you just can't make it out, like, can you, what the shape is. Definite drone with props on it. So whether it's some sort of surveillance drone or just a plane keeping an eye on things, just don't know.
Okay, we're now heading out towards, that'll be way I think. We've now got an F-15 coming around here very fast. That one moving fast. But these are 3 flashing lights of 3 F-15s. The drones disappeared over that direction. You can tell they're F-15 because they've just got the one flashing light on them. So they're tracking it, obviously, I would think, to see where it's going to go. This one coming towards me might be it's a job to tell from a distance. Yeah, there's only 3 F-15s up. There's 2 there. And I think this is the drone coming back round again. Right, let's see if we can get it any better. Yeah, it's moving really slow. This is the drone coming back round again. F-15s are going to run out of fuel, we're not careful, so I'm probably have to launch some more. Who knows? If this is what's going on. But yeah, with the naked eye, that's green and white flashing lights. That's definitely the drone. The F-15s don't have any green or red. They have a red light. In fact, there's a F-15, very faint, just going past it to the left.
Yeah, we've got multiple reports of UAVs taking off in the field to the north and south.
Tonight, the FBI FBI looking for info about possible drone sightings in New Jersey.
And Fox's Sharon Crowley is in the newsroom with more on what people are seeing and why the FBI now getting involved in this one. Sharon.
Yeah, what we've been hearing is really incredible. It's not only the FBI, but New Jersey State Police and the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security are asking for your help. If you see drones in the skies above your house or your head, they want to know what's going on. The feds want the public to report that information because they've had a number of recent sightings of possible drones flying along the Raritan River. Now, take a look at this. Mike Walsh took this video last week in Chester, New Jersey. He says that he started to notice multiple drones in the sky at night starting last month, and he did call and alert police of the activity. He says he has continued to see drones like these as large as the size of a car. You heard me right, the size of a car, all happening in the sky over his home in Randolph.
They're big. Like I saw a couple last night, which were very large, I checked like a flight tracker app and there's no planes in the area. If you see these things go by and, they're big.
Well, he's not the only one. Many people in New Jersey sending us their videos, reporting seeing drones like these overhead. This one in the area near the Raritan River, and one woman taking other pictures of drones in Mendham Township Saturday evening about 6 o'clock.
So, the regularity of these incursions is increasing. The apparent linger time of these things is increasing. And the media is still dragging its heels, really, in its reporting of it. Little tiny bits are dripping out here and there, and they always refer to them as drones and say there doesn't appear to be any hostile intent. However, I've received multiple messages from different sources that have confirmed that the British Armed Forces are redeploying several of their regiments to respond to this and to man the bases. One of which is a regiment which operates the Shrike anti-aircraft missiles. So, yeah, over British soil, surely that's something of interest. And also from the BBC, they've seen evidence that agents from the US Air Force Office of Special Investigations, or AFOSI, are now involved in Suffolk. Now, if that seems familiar to you, AFOSI is where Richard Doty used to work, who was integrally linked to the UAP phenomena and counterintelligence over the years. Also involved, it reminds you of the Rendlesham Forest incident, which is still unsolved after 41 years. We're also hearing from America that the Department of Defense, the CIA, the FBI are involved, and also in UK, the SAS and SBS, Special Air Service and Special Boat Service, our most elite fighting force, have been redeployed to counteract these drones. This does not sound like something that you would do to deal with a nuisance. However, the plot gets even thicker. George Knapp, legend of the UFO field, and several other news sources have confirmed that measures have been taken to try and bring these drones down, and they've all failed. So I just want to take a second here, because this isn't people with a rifle or whatever. Here are some of the means available to the military to actually bring down drones, and I just want to give a shout out to Tech Planet for this video, which I'm going to use and talk over. So this is the Roadrunner, which is an automatic or controlled anti-drone specific weapon. It has modular payload configuration so that you can tailor it to whatever type of drone it is that you're trying to blow up. Basically, it comes with its own little launch pad, and when you detect a harmful drone or an enemy thing that you want to take out of the sky, it lifts off, blasts over to whatever it's doing with, and explodes and deals with it, as you'll see here. I mean, this thing can target planes, so you'd imagine it can certainly handle anything that we would class as a drone. Looks pretty effective. But it's not the only countermeasure that we have. So let's have a look at the top 7 drone countermeasures that are currently in use around the world by our armed forces. Just going to whip through some of these countermeasures. So there is an absolute myriad of them, from nature itself to super high tech. This is an automated turret-based drone jammer, which would just stop things from getting over airfields in the first place. So what you're about to see is some of the more popular ones in use. This is a pistol-based one, which just blocks all of the frequencies that you would use to control it. Same with a carbine-looking thing there. And not only does it block the frequencies, but it can also override control systems, because lots of drones these days, if they lose signal, will return to their owner. This is the same, a drone gun, Mark III, looks very cool, but it's a handheld system where, for example, if you're on an airfield and there's a drone where it shouldn't be, you whip it out of a box, point it at the problem, and it soon goes away. This is my favorite one. I love the idea of this. This is basically a militarized t-shirt gun which fires a net and a bowler. So again, some of the most prehistoric hunting methods are coming back to deal with the most cutting edge technology that we have. Just works like a giant t-shirt gun. Point it at the problem and snare it up. So it wouldn't matter if something's immune to electronic countermeasures or anything like that. This thing just physically grabs it and yanks it out of the sky. Sometimes the simple answers are the best. This one is an anti-drone drone. Now, FPS drones can travel above 200 miles an hour for a very short time, and this thing just flies over and knocks it out of the sky. Here, though, the old classic, Mother Nature herself. You can't really argue with an eagle. It doesn't matter how fancy your drone is. And there is no shortage of them around UK airports. They're employed at Manchester to keep migrating birds away. So this is certainly something where if, for example, a problem went on for 6 days, you could redeploy it very quickly. My favourite one, though, and the most James Bond of it all, is directed energy weapons. No longer a feature of science fiction. These are commonly in use today. It's an integral part of the F-35, and commercially you can buy a laser now which will cut through plate steel. So you can only imagine what the most elite fighting forces in the world have access to that can do the same. Russell Targ said that in the mid-60s they had a laser which could blow a plane out of the sky. So given that it's 60 years later, you can only imagine what we've got hiding in closets in different places. But these can be mounted to multiple different platforms from air, ground and sea. Now, an unfortunate symptom of being a UAP studier is that you're often left with more questions than answers. And the biggest question right now is, what the hell is going on? So this thing is escalating, and the nearest parallel that we can see is that global tensions are escalating. We are at a point in history where we can do more damage to more people in less time than ever before. And so were there some other life form out there keeping an eye on us, it makes perfect sense that now in particular they would be really ramping up their observations of us. Jack Sarfati, the incredibly intelligent and absolute storm in shoes that he is, has put out the opinion that it is some form of nuclear intervention scenario, and I don't agree. I'm not saying I know any better, but there's no evidence for that. As I've mentioned in my UFOs and Nukes documentary, which I'd recommend if you're interested to check out, they haven't intervened when we did the most horrifically inhumane things at Bikini Atoll. They didn't intervene in Nagasaki or Hiroshima. And there's no real history that tracks of them intervening to stop us doing terrible things to each other. Free will, love it or hate it, is the golden rule, it would appear. So we just don't know. All we can do is stay vigilant. The citizen journalism is, again, what's going to progress this topic more than anything coming from official sources. So get your plane tracker, keep your eye on those transponders, and keep your eyes in the skies. And who knows, maybe in a little amount of time, we'll know a little bit more. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the very near future.